Hey, show me where you work. I involuntarily looked at her face in surprise. Lauren, whom I had reunited with at our reunion after 18 years, was making an unreasonable demand with her usual haughty and arrogant attitude. Why? As I timidly asked for the reason, she suddenly changed her tone and began to emphasize her words while making her case. I want to see with my own eyes what kind of lowly company a high school dropout like you works at. Reluctantly, I took her to a certain company, trying to calm her hysterical outburst. However, the place was a far cry from the lowly workplace she had imagined. It was a major corporation, publicly traded. Moreover, the person who appeared for the meeting was her husband Kevin, whom she always bragged about. Why are you here? My name is Jason. How's the new rock? Do you like it? While looking into the aquarium, I talked to my pet turtle, whom I affectionately call Buddy. As the proverb cranes live 1,000 years, turtles 10,000 years suggests, green turtles actually live longer than other animals, with an average lifespan of about 40 years. When I started to get bored of living alone, I suddenly felt an urge to buy a pet and headed to a nearby pet shop. But somehow, none of the dogs or cats in the showcase appealed to me. Naturally, taking care of a living creature comes with responsibility. Having never owned a dog or cat before, I got cold feet that day and left the store without making up my mind. However, the thought still lingered when I got home. When I visited the store again later, a sign that wasn't there before caught my eye: green turtles now in stock. Excuse me, what's this? When I asked a young female staff member nearby, she led me to a tank where several green turtles were swimming. Its dark green shell, jet black body, and large eyes. I was completely captivated by its efforts to climb the rocks with its sharp claws, and before I knew it, I had brought home a green turtle along with a complete turtle care set. It's been 3 years since then. At least, I'll have another 37 years with this little guy. After setting the food timer and checking the oxygen level and water temperature, I head to work. My commute isn't by train, but by road bike. It's both a hobby and a way to combat the belly fat that started to bother me after turning 30. Long before the trend of morning activities took off, I've always cherished the morning hours the most in my day. It's said that people's concentration and thinking abilities are at their peak in the morning. Riding my road bike from New York's Central Street for over an hour clears my mind, and I might even come up with ideas for the next product release. In fact, our main product, the Micro Pro Mini Projector, was inspired by something I thought of during my commute. While waiting at a traffic light, the sweet scent of osmanthus drifts over. It's that time of the year again. The weekend is likely to be perfect for outings. If the weather is good, I'll take Buddy for a walk in the nearby park. Lost in these pleasant thoughts, I was suddenly approached by a woman waiting to cross the street. Hey, Jason. Turning around, I saw Lauren, a classmate from middle school, pointing at me in surprise. Lauren, who was one of the most beautiful girls in our class, if not our entire grade, still had a stunning, eye-catching beauty, now enhanced by the subtle allure of being 33 years old, seemingly aware she belonged in the bustling streets of New York. It's funny. What? Are you a delivery guy? I couldn't quite grasp what she found amusing, but I assumed she meant it's funny running into you here, interpreting it in my own way. She seemed to have mistaken me, pedaling my road bike, for a delivery rider. Sort of. What about you, Lauren? She flashed an unnaturally white smile. I have a photo shoot this morning, but more importantly, you're going to the reunion this weekend, right? Oh, right. I have completely forgotten about that. I remembered a postcard I had left at the entrance of my house. This weekend marks the 18-year reunion of my middle school class. The venue, if I recall correctly, is an Italian restaurant in Somerville. I'm planning to attend. As the traffic light looked like it was about to change, I replied briefly. "Make sure you come," she said in her usual high-handed manner. She hadn't changed a bit from those days, a stunning beauty with a flawless face and figure, but honestly, not my type. I had seen many of my male friends in middle school get heartbroken by Lauren. Some were bluntly rejected and completely crushed, while others thought they were in a relationship with her, only to find out they were just being strung along. Who knows how many guys cried over her misleading behavior and cunningness. Of course, it wasn't just the boys. There were numerous couples who broke up simply because the boy had fallen for Lauren. Middle schoolers are in the sensitive period of adolescence. Once a conflict between boys and girls starts, rumors spread quickly in the confined school environment. Some girls were openly hostile towards Lauren, but she just ignored them, as if nothing mattered. At the young age of 15, her audacity and brazenness were unparalleled, almost commanding respect. She carried herself as if the world revolved around her, a divine air to her demeanor. With her beauty and calculated behavior, she was like a bewitching witch at the top of the school hierarchy, manipulating those around her at will. On the other hand, back then, I was just an average middle school boy, more interested in club activities and video games than dating girls. The only thing notable about me was that my voice broke a little earlier than my friends. I wanted no part in the drama surrounding Lauren and her clique, nor did I want anyone taking away my precious gaming time. I was just a typical adolescent, perhaps even less mature for my age, while Lauren was a sophisticated middle schooler, years ahead of her time. I've always believed that I have a knack for sensing these kinds of things since I was young. Lauren was definitely one of those people. Her dazzling brilliance was beautiful from a distance, but get too close, and you're likely to get burned. This unexpected morning encounter with Lauren made me reflect on my middle school days as I pedaled on my road bike. Arriving at work, slightly sweaty, I finally settled into my day. As soon as I sat at my desk, I opened my computer. Our company has advanced in paperless operations, so everything from confidential contracts to personal receipts is stored electronically. At first glance, one might think there's no work left without physical documents, but once I opened my personal shared folder, a plethora of unreviewed documents awaited me. I let out a sigh and checked my schedule on Outlook. 5 mandatory meetings today and over 45 unread mails. I prioritized my tasks before diving into the material for the first meeting. Days like this fly by in a blink. Sometimes it's important to take a moment to reflect on oneself. In that sense, the reunion might be a good opportunity. Finally, after finishing my work for the day, I left the office. On my way home, intoxicated by the even sweeter scent of osmanthus, I rushed back on my road bike. Upon arriving home, I found Buddy in the same position as when I left, leisurely yawning on his new rock formation. Then came the weekend. The reunion was set for the evening, so I had planned to take Buddy to the park during the day, but unfortunately, it was rainy. With no other choice, I tossed the pile of laundry into the washing machine and pressed the start button on its automatic dry cycle. Immediately, the drum of the washer began to whirl. Watching it spin, my thoughts also began to whirl, taking me back to my middle school days. That was the day of our graduation ceremony. By chance, as I walked down the corridor, I overheard Lauren talking with a friend. "What's with him? He's so annoying. The worst, really," she said in a petulant tone. "Calm down. There's no guy who wouldn't be swayed by Lauren." Her friend consoled her, trying to reassure her. Honestly, I was more surprised to hear that there were guys she couldn't charm. It wasn't eavesdropping, but I couldn't help overhearing. I decided to keep this fact to myself, without telling anyone. After the graduation ceremony, almost everyone in our grade went on to either public or private high schools. With just one exception. I was heavily into the computer class I was attending as an extracurricular activity at the time and decided to forego high school to pursue programming more seriously. I convinced my parents to let me immerse myself in a free school. Luckily, my parents were very open-minded and laid-back people. How about you attend a famous computer school in New York instead? Is that esports thing? What if Jason becomes a world champion or something? If you're going to be on TV, Mom has to start losing weight now. That was how casual my parents were, lumping together computers, programming, and esports. Normally, if one parent is lenient, the other tends to be strict. But both of my parents were optimistic, perhaps because they had me at a young age. They saw me not going to high school as a humorous son trying to accomplish something different and unconventional. So, when I told them I didn't want to go to school and just explained what I wanted to do, there was no conflict with them at all. At the same time, I was surprised and somewhat worried about their too lenient educational stance. But thanks to that, I am who I am today. Eventually, I passed the entrance exam for a renowned programming school in Chino Hills, California, which my father found for me. I spent 2 years there mastering programming skills. Armed with these skills, I started my job hunt, but I encountered an unexpected problem. The career counselor at the job center frowned upon seeing my resume and said, "Programming school, huh? This doesn't give you a high school diploma, so your highest education is middle school." Sadly, that was exactly the case. One reason my parents didn't object to the programming school was that if I passed the selection test, the tuition would be almost free, making the educational expenses significantly lower than going to high school. We weren't extremely poor, but we were a lower middle class family. Both of my parents were from rural areas and had no savings since they had me at a young age. Afterward, I was rejected by every IT-related company I applied to through the employment office, and dark clouds started looming over my life. But, being the son of those parents, I maintained some optimism. If I can't get hired, leaving the job center, I headed straight to the tax office. "Hey, Jason, over here, at the reunion." As I wandered around the large venue with a beer in hand from the entrance staff, my best friend Mark spotted me and beckoned me over. "You didn't come last time, right? Good you could make it today." I have completely forgotten, but there was a reunion when we were 25. I think I missed it due to the flu or something. Actually, I ran into Lauren yesterday by chance. Hearing that, Mark was surprised. "Wow, Lauren's a super popular model now. We were in the same high school, you know. She was already doing reader modeling and appearing in magazines back then. Look, that crowd over there is definitely around Lauren." Mark pointed across the room while holding his beer. Looking where he pointed, there was indeed a crowd, and Lauren was at the center, as expected. She radiated the aura of a leading lady, as if the reunion was held just for her. Noticing our gaze, Lauren smiled brightly. While gently dismissing the classmates talking to her with a wave of her hand, she confidently walked over to us, unaffected by her slender high heels. "So, you were already here. Long time no see, Mark." Mark seemed flustered when Lauren suddenly looked his way. Yeah, you're still as beautiful as ever." Right, I had forgotten, but Mark used to have a crush on Lauren. But back then, he was too shy to confess his feelings, unlike the other boys. If I remember correctly, the number of times he initiated a conversation with her could be counted on one hand. After we exchanged brief greetings, Lauren ostentatiously showed off her left ring finger. The ring was adorned with what appeared to be a large, sparkling diamond. I actually got married. We were both 33 years old. Somewhere in my heart, I had thought that Lauren might never marry. "Really? That's great. Congratulations." The old Mark probably would have hidden away and sulked after hearing that. It's only natural that he's grown up, and I found myself oddly impressed, almost like a parent would be. I'm going to grab some food. Maybe Mark still hadn't fully matured. Unable to endure the situation any longer, he left us to head towards the catering area. My husband works at Microtech Inc., Lauren boasted. Microtech Corporation is a recently listed company, gaining so much attention that it was even featured in the financial magazine quarterly reports. So, that's where Lauren's husband works. What kind of work does he do? Which department? Lauren seemed taken aback, not expecting me to inquire so deeply about her husband. She paused, looking like a pigeon shot with a pellet gun, but soon raised her chin and bragged confidently. He's involved in creating the MicroPro. I think it's the product development division. He's a manager, so he's on the fast track to success. Hearing this, something clicked in my mind. A certain person came to mind. Suddenly, the MC jumped onto the makeshift stage at the front of the venue and grabbed the microphone. Okay, let's start the much-awaited bingo game. Please get your bingo cards ready, which were distributed at the reception. And yes, we have prizes. Someone whistled loudly, amping up the excitement in the room. From somewhere, a long table on casters was wheeled in from the back. On top of the table were what appeared to be prizes, home appliances, gaming consoles, theme park tickets, and branded wallets. The lineup was surprisingly luxurious for a mere reunion event. No wonder the participation fee was high. The invitation card had mentioned that an Italian restaurant in Somerville was rented out for the event. Even considering the venue cost, a participation fee of $100 seemed like a write-off, but seeing the prizes, it felt somewhat justified. The venue lights dimmed for the bingo game, spotlighting the host on stage. I later learned that one of the organizing members worked in stage technology, so the professional lighting was borrowed for free from their workplace. The first number is 24, announced the DJ, holding up a small ball with a number. Another organizer quickly wrote 24 on a whiteboard set up nearby. With the audience lights dimmed, the only way to see the faces of those around us was by the light spilling from the stage. Lauren, still next to me, whispered just loud enough for me to hear. Hey, how about we make a bet? I turned to her, puzzled. Her gaze remained fixed on the DJ on the stage. Whoever gets bingo first wins. I couldn't understand why she was challenging me to such a childish game. If I win, show me where you work. Her sudden demand caught me off guard. Why? In the next numbers, 81. Maybe we'll see some reaches soon. The entire venue was getting into the spirit. Soon, someone nearby shouted, "Reach." Lauren then suddenly turned to face me. Although her face was hard to see due to the stage lights, her eyes were cold and sharper than I'd ever seen. I want to see where a high school dropout like you works. For a moment, the air between us turned icy. What's her deal? I never liked Lauren, not even back in middle school, and we weren't particularly close. If anything, I had kept my distance to avoid trouble. Yet now, for some reason, she seemed intent on involving me. Soon after, someone finally yelled, "Bingo!" The venue erupted into applause. The lights suddenly brightened, allowing us to finally see each other clearly. Prizes are going fast, everyone. The next number is 7. Hearing this, Lauren smirked. Lucky number 7, I win. Remember our bet? She left me standing there in surprise and promptly went forward to claim her prize. Ah, there you are. Couldn't see you in the dark. Mark, who had disappeared earlier, found me and started chatting again. He offered me a plate overflowing with salad and fried chicken, insisting I ate. I debated whether to tell my best friend about my recent interaction with Lauren. But in the end, I decided not to tell anyone, and the 18-year reunion came to a close without further incident. The prizes were all gone, and my bingo card remained without a win, reduced to just a piece of paper. "Thanks for keeping your promise. See you today." Lauren messaged me on a messaging app within a week of the reunion. I wondered who told her my account but decided not to look into it. I wasn't too keen on it, but a promise is a promise. I arranged to meet her in front of a certain company. "Hey, this is my husband's company," she realized as soon as we arrived. Indeed, as she said, we were standing in front of Microtech Corporation. "I told you, I want to see where you work." Her tone was noticeably more forceful than before. To avoid further upsetting her, I silently led Lauren into the lobby of Microtech Corporation, and together we approached the reception desk. I then asked for her husband by name. "You are here to see Kevin. Do you have an appointment?" "No, we don't," I answered quickly. The receptionist smiled apologetically. "Unfortunately, without an appointment. This lady is the wife of Kevin from the product development division. She insists on seeing her husband." The receptionist briefly glanced at Lauren. Lauren, for appearance's sake, gave a small nod and murmured a polite greeting. "Understood. I'll check with Kevin. May I ask your relationship to him?" Lauren tapped her fingers impatiently on the counter, looking irritated. "Why are you doing this? Calling out my husband like this? What are you planning? You and Kevin haven't even met before, right?" Ignoring her questions, I handed my business card to the receptionist. The receptionist's demeanor changed instantly, looking back and forth between the card and me. "Mr. Smith from Global Tech, I apologize for the oversight. Please, go to the 15th floor." Lauren looked surprised at the receptionist's sudden change of attitude. Without fully understanding the situation, we got into the elevator together. Partway up, 2 female employees joined us. Noticing Lauren, they started whispering to each other. "Is that, yay, the model Lauren, right?" Lauren, accustomed to such attention, ignored them, maintaining her silence. Just as one of the women was about to approach Lauren, we reached our floor, and Lauren brusquely stepped out of the elevator, expressionless. In the guest meeting room, after a short wait, the door opened. It was Kevin, Lauren's husband. "Lauren, why are you here, Mr. Smith? What brings you here suddenly? Is there an issue with our products?" He seemed more concerned about why I was there than about his wife's unexpected appearance. "I'm sorry for barging in unannounced." Lauren, a former classmate, was curious about what her husband does, so I brought her here. I explained, showing respect. President Smith and his wife were classmates. I had no idea. I don't know the circumstances, but it seems my wife has caused some trouble. I'm truly sorry for that. Seeing the 2 men apologizing to each other, Lauren appeared awkward and embarrassed. "Jason, I wanted to see what kind of lowly place a junior high school dropout like you worked at, so why did you bring me here?" Lauren asked me this question hesitantly, her eyes filled with suspicion. It seemed like the right time to reveal the truth. After graduating from middle school, I had dropped out of high school to attend a programming school. Once I had a reasonable grasp of computer-related knowledge, I started looking for a job. However, no IT company was willing to hire me, given my junior high education. After much deliberation, I decided to register my own business at the tax office. As a self-employed individual, I began taking on small retail tasks for computer peripherals and simple programming projects. Gradually, my business expanded, and I launched my own original e-commerce site. Initially, it was just small computer parts, but eventually, I started dealing in other electronics. Now, my company, Global Tech Inc., where I serve as CEO, has grown into a major e-commerce site dealing in various gadgets, catering to both professionals and amateurs. Our main products are computers, tablets, cell phones, and projectors. Microtech Corporation, where we currently stood, manufactured the compact projector, MicroPro, which was our concept and exclusively sold on our website. Simply put, Microtech was a subcontractor for Global Tech Inc. But recently, the dynamics were changing. Listen, Lauren, the man you're looking at, your former classmate, is now the president of a company with an annual turnover of $30 billion. Moreover, it's been decided that Microtech will be merged with Global Tech through an M&A. In other words, this place is also his workplace. If you don't want to ruin your marital relationship, you better take back what you said earlier and apologize to him right now. Chided by her husband, Lauren looked up at me with a miserable expression. But she wasn't the type to easily change her attitude. You've always been the worst, but now you're even worse. Instead of apologizing, she glared at me with an even sharper look. Hey, she muttered, seemingly indifferent to the state of her marriage. Feeling uncomfortable, she swiftly opened a conference room door and left alone. Kevin, looking astonished at my reaction, muttered, "I apologize for any inconvenience. Please forgive her on my behalf." He then seemed to remember something suddenly. Lauren once told me when she was drunk that she never lets any man she targets get away. She was confident that every man would fall for her. But she mentioned there was one person who never paid her any attention. Could that have been you? His question made me recall the incident at our middle school graduation. Nobody can resist Lauren, so that was about me. But knowing this fact now didn't change how I felt. I didn't understand why Lauren had developed feelings for me, and frankly, I didn't think it was necessary to know. Her kind of temperament, playing with men while juggling several at a time, was not what I liked. My disinterest must have been apparent because Kevin gave a resigned smile. "You just made a face that shows you have no interest in my wife. Lauren isn't a villain. It's like those kindergarten boys who tease the girls they like. Perhaps Lauren harbored similar feelings towards you. She wanted to prove how happy she is now, making you regret not paying attention to her." I see. The way Lauren looked at me during the bingo game, and earlier, was not sweet affection, but a dark mix of obsession and jealousy. It's an overcomplicated situation. It made me feel somewhat disheartened, but perhaps Kevin felt the same way. In a sense, being married to her, he might be suffering more. But maintaining his composure, he straightened up and said, "I apologize for this, I must be going," before leaving the room. He was likely heading home to have a serious conversation with his wife. At least Kevin doesn't judge people by their surface. In the past few months, through professional interactions, I had come to understand his character. The setting sun started to glare into the meeting room. Well, time for me to head back and get to work, I thought, leaving Microtech Corporation. A few months later, as usual, I fed my pet turtle Buddy before leaving home. It was a bit chilly for cycling on my road bike, but I anticipated that my metabolism would increase and warm up my body as I rode. Dressed in a breathable windbreaker as usual, I set off for the office. It was about time for the cherry blossoms to start blooming. As I rode through the central streets of Manhattan, a large electronic advertisement caught my eye at a traffic light. "Be more honest than yesterday. Apollo, newly launched." Last month, my company Global Tech Inc. announced a new product, Apollo, now prominently displayed in the electronic advertisement. Apollo is not related to the Apollo space mission, but rather derives from apologies. The new product Apollo is a gift-type wireless earphone with a messaging feature. There are two key differences from regular wireless earphones. 1. The sender can record a message for the recipient. 2. The message doesn't automatically reach the recipient. It only plays for 30 minutes if the earphones are worn at a specified time and GPS location. Essentially, if you don't know when and where your intended recipient will wear the earphones, your message may never be delivered. The most important thing when giving a gift is to empathize with the recipient, putting them first without being self-centered. That's why Apollo has such a specification. This inconvenient communication method, contrary to the high-tech era, piqued interest, especially among young people on social media. The Apollo wireless earphones became a hit, reflecting good sales. People like Lauren, unable to effectively convey their feelings, are plentiful in this world. Though I will never reciprocate her feelings, I hope to help those who struggle to express themselves. Someday, I hope that Apollo is used to convey her true feelings to someone else, not me. Of course, that recipient could be anyone, her husband, family, friends, or anyone else. According to Greek mythology, Apollo is also the god of healing. I have no presumptuous intention of curing her complicated personality. But those bound by jealousy and obsession could surely be saved by embracing honesty, becoming more loved by others, and learning to love themselves. Gazing into the big black eyes of Buddy as he munched on his food, I wished for the happiness of that beautiful witch who will never appear before me again. Madison doesn't have a mother, is that right? During a visit to my daughter's prospective in-law's home, the mother asked me this simple light question. I don't think our families are a good match in terms of background. What are your thoughts on this? The father also inquired, looking down on us. I was infuriated at them for belittling my precious daughter. If it's a single-father household, did you even go to high school? It's hard to have a conversation with someone who's undereducated, and marrying them would only lead to mutual unhappiness. Our son deserves someone who graduated from one of the top universities in the U.S. Hearing this, I laughed off the rude couple. I then opened my mouth to reveal my daughter's true background. The education-obsessed couple was astonished. Our counterattack began. I'm Jack, a single father. I have a daughter named Madison. My wife passed away in a car accident 20 years ago, just before Madison was about to start elementary school. My wife's parents had already passed away due to illness before that. Since then, I've been raising Madison with the help of my parents, her grandparents. However, I mostly relied on my parents for household chores and hardly had time to play. I remember trying to do something parental, like burning the omelet while making a lunchbox for a sports day, worrying all day when I couldn't pick her up from daycare because she was sick and I had to work, and only feeling relieved when I saw her sleeping peacefully late at night. I couldn't attend parent-teacher meetings often and had to hear about them from Madison or my mother, who attended. On weekends, when I was working, my father would take Madison to amusement parks, and I could barely manage to see her off to school and hardly ever greet her with a welcome home. Honestly, I feel like I was only minimally involved in her life. Nevertheless, Madison grew up to be strong. Dad, you need to eat properly even when you're busy. I made lunch, so make sure you eat it. Thank you. I'm particularly proud of the omelet, so look forward to it. Worried about me being busy, Madison would make lunch for me and start talking about her day at school. Dad, the other day, the teacher praised me. That's great, I'm so glad. Even with the little time we had, she would share her school stories with me. Dad, there's a school I want to go to. Oh, if that's what you want, I'm behind you all the way. Thank you, Dad. As her father, I may be biased, but I believe she has grown into a kind and considerate woman. Recently, Madison told me she wants to marry someone. The guy, Ethan, seemed to have a gentle demeanor. I met Madison through work, he said. Ethan is a lawyer who graduated from Harvard, Madison added. I see. So an elite, huh? Not at all. Compared to Madison and you, Jack, I still have a lot to learn. He laughed in response, and it might be rude to say, but he didn't really look like the elite type. This was probably why he seemed like a good match for my somewhat gentle daughter, Madison. Considering they were both in their late 20s, I had no intention of interfering with their decision to marry. However, watching him smile tenderly at Madison, I could tell he would genuinely cherish her. I felt confident that Ethan would take good care of Madison. Please take care of Madison for me, Ethan. Yes, I will definitely make her happy. It's not just about making her happy, but about being happy together. Yes, looking forward to our future, Ethan. Me too, Madison. I wholeheartedly blessed the two of them, smiling tenderly at each other. A while after Madison introduced Ethan to me, she said she needed to talk. Next time, I'm planning to visit Ethan's parents' house to greet them. Dad, would you come with me? Me too. Yes. Both of Ethan's parents are busy with work and it's hard for them to find time. That's why we want to have a meeting with both families together. I want you to come along. I see. All right, I'll join you. Thank you, Dad. Sure, if they're that busy, we'll accommodate Ethan's family schedule. Let me know once the date is set. Okay, I will. But try to set it up as soon as possible. Since it's a slow period for me, I'm flexible with time and decided to adjust to the other family's schedule. But it was supposed to be this weekend, but it seems Ethan's dad suddenly got called into work. Is that so? The weekend plan got postponed, and then I was told, it seems Ethan's mom has to attend a meeting for an event. Well, if they have other commitments, it can't be helped. In this way, the plan was set and then postponed several times due to various commitments, and at times the discussion went back and forth, making it difficult to finalize the plans. It seems they really are busy. 2 months after Madison mentioned it, we finally managed to schedule a visit to Ethan's house. We've been waiting for you, Jack. Sorry to keep you waiting. Not at all. It's our fault for postponing it for so long. Sorry about that. No, it's fine. Please, come this way. Ethan led us through a magnificent gate. Looking at Madison beside me, I could see she was nervous. I was aware that I had the same look on my face. Ethan's family home was a large traditional house. The garden was spacious and well kept, with colorful carps swimming in the pond. The roof tiles gleamed black, and the large entrance was spotless. It was a very impressive house. We were then led into a large guest room. A painting hung on the wall, and beautiful flower arrangements were placed in expensive-looking vases. It was clear that this was a house with a distinguished history. In the center of the guest room sat a well-dressed man and woman, presumably Ethan's parents. The father, dressed in formal attire, sat with his arms crossed. He looked at us steadfastly, making no move to get up. "Welcome to our home." The mother, while smiling and appearing friendly, gave the impression that her eyes were not smiling. According to what Madison had told me earlier, the father's name is Robert. He's a bank branch manager. The mother is named Linda. She's a principal at a private high school. I had heard that both parents, like Ethan, graduated from Harvard University and are both highly accomplished. Nice to meet you. I am Madison, engaged to Ethan. My name is Jack, her father. Thank you for taking the time for our daughter today. I am Ethan's father, Robert. I'm Linda, the mother. Please take the seats. We sat on the chairs and greeted them. After they introduced themselves, we sat down on the chairs they offered. Please have some coffee. Thank you, I replied. Linda served the coffee and then returned to her seat next to Robert. Thank you for coming all this way today. The meeting, which began on a seemingly cordial note, felt more complicated as I noticed Linda's smiling eyes and Robert's seemingly condescending gaze. Today is a good day for this. Yes, indeed, we're lucky with the weather. As we chatted about the weather and other light topics, Linda suddenly asked Madison an intrusive question. I heard your mother isn't with you. Is that right? Mom, that's so rude to ask out of the blue. What's wrong with that? It's a fact, isn't it? Yes, well, Ethan tried to reprimand Linda, but she seemed unconcerned. I couldn't help but give a wry smile at the situation. Excuse my asking, but how old were you when she passed away? Well, Madison lost her mother in a car accident just before starting elementary school. Mom, that's really inappropriate. Who took care of the household chores then? Surely not you. No, my parents helped out, especially my mother. She did most of the housework. It must have been difficult without a female figure in the house. No, it wasn't like that. Mom, Linda's rapid-fire questions started to irk me. Without a mother, who would have taught you about household chores, especially cooking? My mother took care of the household and taught Madison various things in my and my wife's stead. Due to this, Madison became very skilled at housework. She is especially good at cooking, and her specialty, the omelet, is exquisite. That's right, Madison's house is always clean, and I love her omelet, added Ethan. But still, I tried to explain before Linda could continue, but she seemed unconvinced. I worried about the difficulties Madison might face with her as a mother-in-law. I don't think our families are quite a match in terms of background. What are your thoughts on this? Just as I was contemplating this, Robert, who had been silent until then, spoke up. His question took me by surprise. Dad, what are you talking about? What do you mean by that? Our family has a long and distinguished lineage. Linda began to explain, supplementing Robert's statement. Our ancestors include politicians and bureaucrats. I see. Of course, not only Ethan, but all his siblings have attended or are attending Harvard University. He's also making a name for himself as a lawyer. Yes, I'm aware of that. It's not just Ethan. His siblings have also graduated from or are currently studying at Harvard University. Mom, what's your point? Educational background doesn't matter. It does matter. Our family is a lineage of elites, all from Harvard University. The thought of Ethan marrying someone without a mother raises concerns about her upbringing and education. That's outrageous, Mom. In other words, they implied Madison wasn't suitable for their family. Realizing this, my anger began to rise. But for Madison's happiness and for Ethan, who was trying to calm his mother, I clenched my fists, holding back my anger and enduring Linda's words. If you're from a single-father household, did you even attend high school? Conversing with someone undereducated can be difficult, and marrying such a person would only lead to mutual unhappiness. Our son deserves someone who graduated from one of the top universities. Enough, Mom. That's incredibly rude. Undereducated. Madison. Just because she didn't graduate from a top university in the U.S. Ha ha ha. Dad, what are you doing? I couldn't help but burst into laughter, laughing off the absurdity of the situation. Madison tried to scold me for it, but I ignored her and continued to look at the two of them. They had said enough. Now, it was time for us to speak our truth. I looked at them squarely, ready to speak my mind. Laughing all of a sudden, what's the meaning of this? So, you're saying Madison isn't suitable for your family just because she's from a single-father household, and you assume she's undereducated. That's what we're saying. If you understand that, then please leave soon. Saying this, Robert looked at me with a look of annoyance. The audacity to judge my daughter's character and inner qualities based solely on her being from a single-father household is absurd. I've never heard anything so ridiculous. It's so ludicrous that I couldn't help but laugh. You only see the surface and titles. Such shallow people. As I spoke, both of them seemed to be getting angrier. Linda's veins were popping, and Robert's face turned red. Whether from a single-father household or not, education is passable. Madison has worked hard and is a wonderful person. She may not have graduated from a top university in the U.S., as you mentioned, but as her father, I can assure you she's a daughter to be proud of. Don't judge based on your prejudices and values without knowing anything. After my forceful response, They were momentarily speechless. I stood up. "Madison, let's go. We don't need to greet such rude people." "Yeah, you're right. Excuse me." As we were about to leave, the door opened, and a young man entered. "Kyle, oh, he's my brother. What's up? I'm Kyle, Ethan's brother. I heard my brother's fiancée was visiting today, so I wanted to greet her." As he spoke, Kyle's eyes shifted. Upon seeing Madison, he was astonished. "Professor Johnson." Kyle, are you?" "Yes, I'm Kyle, a student. I can't believe I'm meeting Professor Johnson. I admire you. You're my brother's fiancée." "Calm down." "Yes, that's right." Nodding to Kyle's words, Ethan turned to his stunned parents. Madison is currently a special professor at Harvard University. A special professor at Harvard University. Unbelievable. Their expression said it all. "My daughter graduated from Oxford." "Oxford?" "Yes, she studied there, published numerous papers, and was recognized globally. She was invited to Harvard University through one of my acquaintances. And now she's teaching there, where Kyle is studying. She's my pride and joy." "Oh, but even if she graduated from one of the world's top universities, she's not from a top university in the US. Is that not good enough for you?" I looked down on their stunned faces. "Despite being from a single-father household, she's from Oxford. You never change, do you?" Then, Ethan stood up with an exasperated expression. "You've always been prejudiced, interfering in my social life. Because of you, I had limited friendships and led a miserable life. His dad is from the lower class, or that kid is uncivilized. I couldn't make friends or create memories because of you." Ethan vented his frustrations to his parents. "Madison is the only person I chose to marry. If you refuse our marriage because of your vanity and outdated family traditions, so be it. I'll join Madison's family and cut ties with this house." "Ethan, how could you say such a thing? Let's go, Jack." "Madison." Ethan gently took Madison's hand and helped her up, then nudged me towards the door. Following his lead, we left the house. "I'm truly sorry for the way my parents acted." Ethan apologized, showing respect as soon as we were outside. "Ethan, I was naive to think they'd accept the person I chose, no matter what. I thought they'd come around, thinking it was for my benefit." "You think differently, don't you?" "Of course, I want to marry Madison, regardless of education or job. I can't see myself understanding my parents' perspective." Ethan looked up at Madison as he spoke. "Still, my feelings for Madison haven't changed. I want you to know that." "Yes, of course." Madison responded by taking Ethan's hand. Seeing them together, I felt reassured. I smiled, watching the two of them, confident they would be all right. "Jack," Ethan addressed me. "It's all right. You tried to stop your parents. I still trust you with Madison." "Thank you. Well, I actually have something to discuss. Let's talk about it at home," I suggested. "Yes, sometime after that meeting." "Sorry to disturb you, President Johnson." "What is it?" "There are visitors requesting to see you, President Johnson." While working, I suddenly had visitors. "Visitors? Who?" "Robert and Linda," my assistant informed me. "All right, please show them to the reception room." "Understood." It seemed Ethan's parents had come. Hearing their names, I directed them to the reception room. When I arrived, they were sitting uneasily on the sofa, unlike their poised demeanor during our last encounter. "Here's the coffee," said my assistant. "Ah, thank you." After my assistant left, Robert started speaking. "We're terribly sorry about the other day." As the doors of the reception room closed, Robert began to speak. "We're truly sorry for what happened. We didn't know Madison's father runs such a large company. They were unaware of my position, and Ethan hadn't told them. No, they probably hadn't listened to him. I am the CEO of a company. It was busy expanding and dealing with troubles when Madison was young, but now it's stable. Thanks to our efforts, we've gained a global market share. Our company has employees from top universities, including Harvard University, contributing significantly. Although I didn't graduate from Harvard University myself, I'm proud of my education from Yale University. But Madison surpassed me in every way. Her eagerness to learn sometimes astounded even me. Running a company, especially during busy periods, often left me with little time. However, I always made the most of the time I had with Madison. Dad, yes, I want to have extra lessons in maths. All right, I'll find you a good teacher. And there's more I want to study. What would that be? Whenever Madison expressed a desire to learn something, I made sure to provide her with the necessary resources. Thanks to this, she developed a passion for studying, to the point where it became her hobby. Aren't you interested in fashion or popular things, Madison? Well, I guess not right now. Don't you want the latest popular drink or something? Not really. I'd rather read research papers. This made her somewhat naive and out of touch with trends, which I considered her only flaw. Jack, you and Madison really have a good relationship where you can talk about anything. Yes, we're family. I understand her well since she talks to me about everything. Our family is quite different. We don't understand Ethan's thoughts. Ethan's thoughts, you say? Yes. Ever since he left home, we've been worried about him. We don't know what he's doing now. It was clear that Robert and Linda were genuinely concerned about Ethan. That was evident from their expressions. We only hear from him occasionally to know he's alive. We have no idea what he's doing or where he is. And then we tried to meet Madison, only to hear she had left the university. Do you know what she's doing now, Jack? Apparently, they really knew nothing about the situation. Did you talk to Ethan after that? Well, yes. They told me they were willing to accept his marriage to Madison, but Ethan wasn't satisfied. He just flipped his opinion because Madison is an outstanding Oxford graduate, right? That's true, but what's wrong with that? So, if Madison was from an ordinary university, you wouldn't have accepted the marriage. Of course not. What's wrong with that? You really didn't understand anything. No matter the educational background, your attitude was wrong. Wrong, you say. How can you not realize how rude you were and that your thinking is flawed? Until you understand that, I won't return home. With that, Ethan apparently left. The two of them, who had been so assertive before, were now completely dejected. It seemed they were deeply shocked by their eldest son's departure. Why do you hold such prejudices, especially you, Linda, being an educator? Yes, I'm the principal of a prestigious private high school. Linda began to explain, still downcast. Our school has a high success rate of students entering Harvard University every year. However, those from well-off families with both parents present have a significantly higher acceptance rate. This didn't necessarily explain the prejudice against single-parent families. The reason, even if students from single-parent families can afford private schooling, they often can't focus solely on studies. Many of these students work part-time to lessen the burden on their parent or to be self-sufficient. As a result, they naturally have less time for studying, and some struggle with their family situation to the point where it affects their academic focus. Sometimes we even have issues with families who are late in paying tuition fees. Such students typically have a lower academic drive. I see. Thus, the equation in my mind became, single-parent families are poor, and children from poor families are undereducated, Linda said. Indeed, seeing such situations firsthand can lead to such perspectives. However, yes, despite being a principal and an educator, I should never have looked at any student with prejudice. Over time, I became soaked in these biases, failing to see each student as an individual. It's embarrassing to admit as a person, Her attitude showed genuine remorse. Robert, too, nodded in agreement. It seemed they had finally reflected on their actions. With this, I felt I could hand over what had been entrusted to me. I presented them with a letter. This was a handwritten letter from Ethan and Madison that I had been keeping. "If my parents ever truly repent and apologize to Jack, please give them this," Ethan had said. So, I had held onto it until now. "To Dad and Mom, Madison and I are going to live in England. Madison has ties to the university, and I plan to acquire an international lawyer's license here. I am truly grateful for the upbringing you've given me. It's true that your interference was painful for me, but I understand it was out of love. However, I couldn't bear it this time. Before I start to completely dislike you, I wanted some distance. Sorry for keeping silent. To Robert and Linda, honestly, I cannot forgive you for insulting my hard-working father and my deceased mother, but it was not my intention to separate Ethan from his parents. Once we've calmed down, please visit us in England. I want you to see our life." The letters from the two, who must have been hurt by the recent events. Reading their letters, tears flowed from Robert and Linda's eyes as they whispered, "We're sorry. I thought they were always children, but they have gone far beyond my reach." As I spoke these words, both of them nodded repeatedly through their tears. Ethan and Madison are now admirable adults. I understand the desire to keep them close and the worry that comes with it. But as parents, we must recognize the right time to let go. While it feels lonely, I wish for their happiness in their own lives. I hoped for just that. Since then, Ethan's parents and I have become occasional contacts, staying in touch now and then. We meet for meals or drinks, often discussing our children's lives and sharing stories about them. Welcome, Jack. Thank you. By the way, I received some photos from them. Let's look at them over dinner. That's great. It's good to know they're doing well. Yes, indeed. The photos they sent this time were apparently taken in London. London, I'm looking forward to seeing them. These moments have become very enjoyable for me. Naturally, I feel a sense of loneliness thinking about my dear daughter, who has ventured overseas. By the way, I spoke with Ethan on the phone recently. Oh, it was awkward at first, but when I expressed my desire to hear about his life, he opened up and shared many things. That's wonderful. Yes, previously, I would have just imposed my views without listening to him. I've come to realize that being a good human being doesn't necessarily correlate with educational background. You've changed, haven't you? Yes, I've learned much from my own son. Linda smiled gently at Robert's laughter. I was raised to believe our family was prestigious, but boasting about it doesn't make it true. I was simply living in a delusion. Prejudices can be frightening. Both Robert and Linda, who smiled more warmly than before, seemed to have grown more attractive as people. Following that first phone call, their communication by phone and email increased. I sensed a flaw in their familial relations. Years later, I found myself at the airport with them. Previously, in Madison's letter, she had expressed a wish for us to see their life for ourselves. The day to fulfill that wish has finally arrived. Dad, Madison, Ethan and Madison, who greeted us at Heathrow Airport, had changed a bit but were vibrant and well. Long time no see. Yes, it has been a while. You look well. Ethan and his parents, unlike us, seemed a bit awkward in their conversation. Let's go to our house, Madison suggested, and we all agreed to visit Ethan and Madison's home. Well, everything is so neat. Yes, of course. As we were shown around the house, we came across a room that caught our attention. Is this a baby crib? And baby toys? Could it be? Yes, actually. Madison said, gently smiling and touching her belly. So, our grandchild was on the way. Oh my. So, we're going to be grandparents, Ethan's parents exclaimed. "Congratulations, Ethan and Madison. Thank you. Thank you." The couple beamed with genuine happiness. "Actually, it turns out we're expecting twins." "Twins, that's double the joy. Ethan, make sure to take good care of Madison." "Of course." "Don't repeat our mistakes. Listen and communicate well." "Yes, of course. I'll love these children just as much as my father loved me. If anything comes up, don't hesitate to call us. We'll be there in a heartbeat." "Thank you." We all laughed heartily together. The conflict of that day had finally been resolved. After staying at their home for a few days, it was time for us to return home. Next time, we'll visit America. Yes, all four of us. We look forward to it. But don't push yourselves too hard. Yes, come back healthy and happy. We made this promise before heading back home. Robert, Linda, would you like to join me for some shopping? Shopping? Yes. I thought we could send some baby items to Ethan and Madison. That's a wonderful idea. Let's go together. Both families were excited about their first grandchild. We bought and sent so many items that Madison later called to say, "Thank you, but you've sent too much." Years later, the three of us prepared to welcome the family of four. Having prejudices on various matters isn't uncommon in life. However, misconceptions can often obscure the truth. So, before acting on them, I hope people will pause and reflect. It's essential not to judge hastily based on misconceptions or prejudices, but to strive to see the essence of things. That's what I've come to believe.